Ladies and gentlemen, we have breaking news in the Justin Baldoni versus Blake Lively court case. A judge has ruled on the protective order. This is a big deal.
He made it very clear that some of the things that Blake was afraid of coming out in court were not things that Wayfarer was actively pursuing.
Who won? Well, I think it's a bit more complicated than that.
Blake Lively, one of Hollywood's most adored and seemingly untouchable stars, is now at the center of a scandal that could shatter everything. And it's not just whispers or baseless gossip. Evidence is starting to surface. Real receipts, alleged backdoor deals, hush money, and the kicker? The very person meant to protect her, her own lawyer, might be the one who just exposed it all.
It seemed like she was very nervous about medical records being revealed, and it seemed very evident that her lawyers were instructed to ensure that her celebrity relationships, third party, all that stuff was off the table.
This is not just some routine legal drama. It's a full-blown crisis. A-list reputations have crumbled over less. We're talking about allegations that go beyond a simple lawsuit. Claims that Lively was actively trying to manipulate the legal system in her favor.
So they go through all of that information. With respect to the confidential or attorney's eyes only portion of any discovery material,
the lawsuit she filed against Justin Baldoni, now it's looking like there might have been an attempt to control the outcome through secret payoffs and underhanded deals. And here's where it gets even messier. Those so-called bribery receipts, leaked documents that allegedly show money changing hands in ways that should never happen in a courtroom, are being linked straight back to her camp, her lawyer, the person she trusted to keep her protected.
It felt almost like nervously so from her team of how much that clearly was the most important thing for them.
But instead of keeping things airtight, they may have just blown the whole thing wide open. The fallout, it's already in motion. Lively is reportedly in full-on damage control mode, scrambling to get ahead of this before it completely unravels. But the question is, can she? Or is this the beginning of a legal and PR nightmare she can't escape?
I don't know how much is going to come through in the transcript that can be read now, but audibly, because we were able to call in to that hearing and listen to it, there did seem to be a lot of stress and a lot of tension, particularly when it came to those points.
Blake Lively is no stranger to the spotlight, but this time, it's not the kind of attention she wants. In the middle of this escalating legal battle, sources close to the situation are saying she's in a state of absolute panic. And it all comes down to records that could expose more than anyone expected.
Given what we're looking at and what's happening and the backlash and everything else, I can't imagine Blake's celebrity friends are happy that it's gotten to this point.
Courtroom insiders are buzzing about how Lively's legal team has been aggressively fighting to keep certain records sealed. Specifically, documents tied to her medical history and past celebrity relationships. The question is, why? What's in those files that has her so desperate to keep them out of public view? This isn't just about privacy. Hollywood stars guard their personal lives all the time.
The judge heard the arguments. I felt Friedman made the better case.
But the urgency and intensity of her legal team's actions are making people wonder if there's something bigger at play. Something that, if revealed, could completely change the narrative of this case. Some are speculating that these records could contain details that contradict the image she's worked so hard to maintain.
The judge was calling both of them out. He was attempting to keep things being neutral, but there were definitely moments where Brian's arguments felt stronger than the other side.
Could it be a health-related revelation? A connection to someone unexpected? A contradiction to her own legal claims? Right now, nobody knows for sure. But the length she's going to in order to keep them under wraps suggest that whatever's in those documents, it's something she does not want getting out. One of the most shocking twists in this case is Blake Lively's claim about being forced into a dance scene she never wanted to be part of.
He made it very clear that some of the things that Blake was afraid of coming out in court were not things that Wayfarer was actively pursuing.
She initially alleged that Justin Baldoni pressured her into filming against her will, something that, if true, would have been a serious accusation. But then, the footage came out, and it didn't show what she wanted people to believe. Instead of a reluctant, uncomfortable performance, the video captured her smiling, laughing, and fully engaged in the scene.
as new articles come out sort of weaponizing the political ideologies that might be trying to dismantle beliefs involved in this case.
No visible distress, no hesitation, just a normal, professional filming process. When this evidence surfaced, Lively's story shifted. Suddenly, it wasn't about being physically forced into the scene. It was about Baldoni supposedly acting out of character, making her feel like she had to go along with it. She claimed she was simply pretending to enjoy herself for the sake of the cameras.
We don't think we should have to present some of our text messages in discovery with our high-profile clients, that being Taylor Swift and whoever else. Some people say Bradley Cooper and whatever other friends of Blake Lively might get sucked into this.
But here's where things fell apart. The judge wasn't buying it. In a statement that reportedly left the courtroom stunned, the judge reminded everyone that actors pretend all the time. That's their job. If Lively's new claim was that she had to act like she liked Baldoni in a scene, that's not coercion. That's just acting. With that, what was once a major accusation turned into a credibility disaster.
Justin Baldoni's side argued that they think that she shouldn't receive any preferential treatment because she's famous, and we need to see all this information. We'll redact it, we'll keep it from the public.
And in a case already filled with twists and contradictions, this moment may have been the one that did the most damage to Lively's legal standing. Blake Lively's legal team might have thought they were making a power move, but instead, they might have just made things worse. In a case like this, you'd expect a lawsuit to be around 20 to 25 pages, straight to the point, focused on the key allegations.
You know, the public is entitled to see different court papers. Everything's supposed to be public, right? Freedom of Information Act, you're supposed to be public. But in certain cases like this.
But Lively's lawsuit, a staggering 180 pages. And according to legal experts, it was packed with what they're calling nonsense. This wasn't a standard legal document. It was more like a messy compilation of every possible grievance, whether it had any real legal weight or not.
No one cares about that, right? We care about finding out, did he harass her or not?
A move that some say was meant to drown the court in excessive claims, making it harder to separate fact from fiction. But judges don't fall for those kinds of tactics. In fact, the judge overseeing the case had no problem calling it out for what it was, a PR stunt. Instead of focusing on legitimate legal arguments, the lawsuit read like it was designed to fuel media headlines rather than hold up in court.
They were not interested in publishing anything about her security, but did bring up that, you know what? Our addresses got leaked. So that's interesting.
And that's exactly why it's backfiring. Legal analysts are saying this approach only weakens Lively's credibility. When a lawsuit is too over the top, it raises questions about whether the person filing it actually has a solid case, or if they're just trying to control the public narrative. And with everything else already working against her, this bloated, 180-page legal document might have done more damage than good.
And, clearly Justice side didn't care about the medical stuff or the security stuff. They agreed even in that call. That's not what this is about. What this became about was more of this sort of mid-ground issue.
Blake Lively's legal team might have thought they were making a power move, but instead, they might have just made things worse. In a case like this, you'd expect a lawsuit to be around 20 to 25 pages, straight to the point, focused on the key allegations. But Lively's lawsuit, a staggering 180 pages, and according to legal experts, it was packed with what they're calling nonsense. This wasn't a standard legal document. It was more like a messy compilation of every possible grievance,
which was these private details, sensitive, confidential information,
whether it had any real legal weight or not. A move that some say was meant to drown the court in excessive claims, making it harder to separate fact from fiction. But judges don't fall for those kinds of tactics. In fact, the judge overseeing the case had no problem calling it out for what it was, a PR stunt.
The court has narrowed the provision to state that information may be marked AEO, attorney's eyes only if its disclosure is highly likely to cause significant business, commercial, financial, or privacy
Instead of focusing on legitimate legal arguments, the lawsuit read like it was designed to fuel media headlines rather than hold up in court. And that's exactly why it's backfiring. Legal analysts are saying this approach only weakens Lively's credibility. When a lawsuit is too over the top, it raises questions about whether the person filing it actually has a solid case, or if they're just trying to control the public narrative.
Now, I got a lot of flack from some of the viewers because I'm saying, like, I don't think this is a massive win for Justin. I don't. I see this as a slight win for Blake.
And with everything else already working against her, this bloated, 180-page legal document might have done more damage than good. Now, this is where things take a very dark turn. Whispers are swirling that someone close to Blake Lively was prepared to drop a jaw-dropping $100 million just to make certain evidence disappear.
Now, I don't see this as a loss for Justin because ultimately they still have the right to fight it each time, but the burden is now on them.
Let that sink in. $100 million. That's not hush money. That's an all-out attempt to bury the truth at any cost. If this is even remotely true, it's one of the most brazen bribery scandals Hollywood has ever seen. We're not talking about a minor legal maneuver. We're talking about an alleged, deliberate attempt to manipulate the system with a sum of money that could buy entire corporations just to keep damaging evidence out of sight.
All rise. The judge has ruled on Blake Lively's protective order. So Blake Lively was fighting to have a protective order put in place for attorneys' eyes only to protect items that may come up in discovery, presumably the Taylor Swift text messages.
Of course, Lively's side is denying everything. No surprise there. But here's the thing. Denials don't erase the red flags. Just the mention of that kind of money being in place set off alarms among legal experts.
And to be clear, Taylor Swift isn't the only high-profile celeb that's part of this. Hugh Jackman appears to be tied with all of this. We have Bradley Cooper, who Blake Lively thanked in the credits for It Ends With Us, seems to be involved in all of this.
If there was nothing to hide, why would anyone even consider offering such an astronomical amount to keep certain information under wraps? The ethics, the legality, the sheer desperation behind this alleged move. None of it looks good for Lively. Whether or not this was just a rumor, the damage is already done.
So there are a number of high-profile celebrities outside of Blake and Ryan Reynolds that will be dragged into this, and there may be some discovery that gets dragged up that is linked to them.
People are asking questions, and if there's any proof that money actually changed hands, this case could take a turn that no one saw coming. Things took an even stranger turn when Blake Lively's team suddenly introduced two mystery witnesses. Individuals who supposedly had their own serious complaints against Justin Baldoni. At first, it seemed like a big development. If other people were coming forward with similar claims, it could have strengthened Lively's case.
Now, the judge has ruled and does agree that high-profile third parties that are not involved directly in the lawsuit, they are entitled to some privacy.
But here's the problem. These witnesses were never officially named. No legal documents were filed. No statements were made under oath. It didn't take long for suspicions to arise. Who were these people? Did they even exist? Without any legitimate records or court filings.
Therefore, any of their information may likely be deemed attorney's eyes only.
The idea that these mystery witnesses were simply made up started gaining traction. Even major media outlets, which usually jump on stories like this, refused to report on them, suggesting they didn't find the claims credible enough to risk their own reputations. And in Hollywood, when even the press won't touch a scandal, you know something is off. Then came the smear campaign against Baldoni,
meaning that it'll have to be kept confidential and that certain information can only be shared with just the attorneys, not the clients, and most certainly won't be leaking in the public.
A series of bizarre and almost laughable accusations meant to paint him as a toxic figure. But instead of making him look bad, these claims did the exact opposite. One of the most absurd examples, Lively's team tried to frame Baldoni's habit of signing emails with love as proof that he was creating a toxic work environment. Yes, signing emails with love. It didn't stop there.
If there's anything that is directly related to the lawsuits or related to the claims made by either party, that can be brought up in discovery and that can be shared with the clients and may possibly be leaked.
Another supposed red flag: Baldoni was filmed giving clothes to homeless people, and somehow this was twisted into a negative, accusing him of being performative, as if helping people in need is something that should be held against him. At this point, many saw these efforts as desperate attempts to discredit Baldoni when there was nothing substantial to use against him. If this was the best Lively's team could come up with, it only made her case look weaker. And instead of turning the public against Baldoni, it did the opposite. People started questioning whether Lively's entire lawsuit was just a carefully orchestrated PR move that was quickly falling apart. Now, let's talk about the Hollywood fallout, because this isn't just about Blake Lively anymore. Her husband, Ryan Reynolds, is now being pulled into the mess, and sources say he's working overtime behind the scenes to limit the damage before it touches him. Reynolds and Lively have long been seen as one of Hollywood's most untouchable power couples, the kind of relationship that fans adore and brands love to associate with. But in Hollywood, reputation is everything, and with Lively's legal battles spiraling out of control, his image is now at risk, too. Sources familiar with the situation claim Reynolds has been making calls, pulling strings, and doing whatever it takes to keep this scandal from exploding beyond control. The last thing he wants is for this to start affecting his business ventures, endorsements, and upcoming projects. The big question now: how much is Reynolds really willing to risk for Lively? Right now, he's standing by her publicly, but if this situation worsens, if more damaging evidence comes out, Hollywood insiders believe he might have to make some tough decisions to protect himself. Because let's be real, one scandal like this can undo years of carefully built public goodwill. And Reynolds? He's spent a lot of time crafting his perfect, fan-favorite image. If this drags him down, too, that could change everything. And just when it seemed like this case couldn't get any messier, Taylor Swift's name gets dragged into it. Sources close to the situation are saying that private text messages between Blake Lively and Taylor Swift have become a key piece of evidence in this legal battle. And the reason? These messages allegedly contain discussions about media manipulation, conversations that could prove Lively was actively working behind the scenes to control the public narrative. Think about that for a second. If these texts are real and they say what people think they say, then this isn't just a legal fight anymore. It's proof that Lively was trying to shape the way the world saw this case from the very beginning. That's huge. Naturally, Lively's team fought hard to keep these messages out of court. And honestly, that only made things worse. Because if there was nothing to hide, why put up such a fight? The second they pushed to block these texts, speculation went into overdrive. What's in those messages that's so damaging? And then there's Taylor Swift herself. If she was part of these conversations, even casually, this could put her in an incredibly uncomfortable position. She's one of the most powerful figures in entertainment. Getting her name involved in a legal scandal like this, that's something nobody saw coming. At this point, people aren't just waiting to see if these texts get revealed. They're wondering what happens if they do. Because if they confirm Lively was trying to spin the media in her favor, this case takes on a whole new level of scandal. As if this scandal wasn't already explosive enough. Now, Hugh Jackman and Bradley Cooper are being dragged into the mess. Their exact involvement, still unclear. But what we do know is that their names have reportedly appeared in legal documents linked to Blake Lively's defense. And that alone is enough to raise eyebrows. Hollywood insiders are buzzing with speculation. What could possibly connect these two A-listers in this case? Were they involved in behind-the-scenes discussions? Did they unknowingly get caught in the crossfire of Blake's legal strategy? Or worse, did they somehow play a role in the alleged rivalry and media manipulation efforts? Right now, neither Jackman nor Cooper have commented, and honestly, that silence is speaking volumes. Because if their names are being brought up in court filings, that means they know something. Maybe they were just casual bystanders, or maybe their connections run deeper than anyone realizes. And here's where it gets really tricky. Rookie. Both actors have carefully curated public images. Jackman is beloved for his charm and philanthropy, and Cooper has spent years building his reputation as a serious filmmaker and actor. This case ends up tying him to Pete and Shane. To put their careers at risk means no recycling. The question now is simple. Are they just innocent means caught in a storm, or is there more to the story? Because if their involvement goes beyond just a fascination, this scandal could spread far beyond Karl, and that would change everything. The coaching tension has reached the breaking point from Judge Lyman. He's done playing games. From the very beginning, Blake Lively's legal strategy has been filled with shifting narratives, last-minute claims, and attempts to control the flow of evidence. But now, the judge has had enough. Sources inside the courtroom say Lyman is growing increasingly frustrated with Lively's ever-changing tactics. And he's making it crystal clear that he's not about to let her manipulate the system just because she's a celebrity. In a scathing moment that sent shockwaves through the legal world, Judge Lyman reportedly called out Lively's attempts to bend the rules in her favor, refusing to grant her special treatment simply because of her Hollywood status. And the reasoning? Simple. Transparency matters, especially when bribery and manipulation seem to be lurking just beneath the surface. The biggest takeaway here? Lively can't just erase inconvenient evidence. The judge is setting a firm precedent. Once evidence is introduced, it stays in play. No last-minute redactions, no quiet removals, no more hiding behind legal loopholes. The days of her team selectively presenting information while trying to bury the rest. Over. Legal experts are already weighing in, saying this ruling could be a major turning point in the case. Without the ability to control what evidence makes it to court, Lively might be completely backed into a corner. And if that happens, the truth, whatever it may be, will have nowhere to hide. Blake Lively's legal strategy is falling apart at the seams. And at this point, it's hard to see a way out that doesn't leave lasting damage. What started as a lawsuit meant to put her in control has completely backfired, and now, she's the one scrambling to contain the fallout. Legal experts are already predicting her next move, settlement. If this case goes to trial, she risks being forced to testify under oath. And if she's caught in the wrong, that could lead to serious legal consequences far beyond just a PR disaster. The smartest thing she can do right now is quietly settle and hope the public moves on. But the reality is, the damage is already done. Hollywood insiders are whispering that her reputation may never recover. Even if she manages to escape legal trouble, she's lost something that can't be bought back. Trust. Studios, brands, and even fellow A-listers are all watching this unfold. And in an industry where image is everything, being seen as untrustworthy can end careers. And that's exactly what we're witnessing. A Hollywood meltdown in real time. Lively may have thought she could manipulate the system, but instead, her own actions have exposed her. The attempt to control the narrative, to twist the legal system in her favor, to allegedly silence critics, and buy her way out of trouble, it all backfired. So now, the question isn't whether she can win this case, it's whether she can ever come back from it.